assessment. I have a question for you then. In terms of protecting minorities and vulnerable sections of the population, what does PR do for these people compared to our current system?
I would say that it probably brings them more to the forefront and gets them help. For starters, with more stability in our government, we're going to have more stable funding going to the places that they need to go, and certainly within an electoral process, we see across the world that a proportional system brings out more women, more trans people, more non-binary folk, and so forth, certainly people of color, and that's going to strengthen our society internally as well. And I think as well we see, I mean, young people especially, right, which we're not actually a minority or even a fringe group anymore. We're the largest voting group next year, and I think since we're largely considered apathetic, I don't believe that for a second. I see we're frustrated and uninterested in participating in something that doesn't seem to work. We'll make it work, and we're going to be out there and participating. I think the same will follow with all the other groups as well. Certainly within the Green Party, we preach social justice, and giving us an extra leg up is going to see more opportunities to rectify the issues with our society around those groups.
Absolutely.
You were talking about stability, and now moving towards something that maybe the no side or people who may vote liberal or conservative would be worried about. You're a small business owner, you own a landscaping company. How do you think having PR and what you said with stability will affect small businesses in BC?
Well, I mean, my business is extra small, so I don't usually get to see a whole much of red tape and so forth, but I can easily imagine that any organization that needs consistent funding for either fair wages or other things that you might get government assistance from, or even just consistent tax rates, we're going to see stability with that over a longer period of time. I really feel like when the conservative side comes out barking about stability, they're looking at it within like a 3 to 4 year time frame, which that's very narrow-sighted in my mind.
Yes.
We're looking at the big picture here. We're looking at not just the next 10, 15 years, but like 5, 6, 7 generations down the road. I think if businesses know that they can expect things to remain stable politically for a long term, we're going to see, especially with organizations coming from outside of the country, even Kinder Morgan, for example, if we had stable government, we might not be in the situation we're in now, but here we are.
There you go. But even for the short term, when you look at the kind of stability that people look for from government, not necessarily just with business, but if we look at the states, the way that power tends to flip-flop from the extremes to the extremes, with sides undoing the work of the previous government. We could look at DACA, all of the deportations that are going to be happening. All of these issues and all of this money that's being wasted based on flipping from extreme to extreme. Obviously, that's not very productive if you're trying to have any kind of business or be an entrepreneur in that environment.
Certainly not. Certainly not. We saw that with our conservative federal government. They were there for a decade and warming up the system for these fossil fuel companies to come in. We switched to a liberal government that arguably isn't that much more liberal than the Conservatives, at least with respect to pipelines, versus the provincial government here in BC. We were very conservative before, switched to a progressive government under the Conservative government. We said, yes, we're going to approve this pipeline. And as soon as the provincial government, as soon as the progressive government comes in, we say, no, we're going to just look at that again. And now we've created so much confusion. And we haven't even said, absolutely no, we can't do this, because we're not even sure if that's our jurisdiction. But we're not there. We can't even find out about that because we've got this switch in federal government, the switch in provincial government, and now we've got these municipal government elections that are coming up.
So far from the middle. There's no clear trajectory.
No. When you've got these majority governments, which one could argue are more successful at enacting policy within the short term, the only option really is to switch back and forth unless we can get a minority government, which is really not very common under first past the post.